there are two different things you can make in the personal project. There's either the physical product. You can also create an outcome. Mine is in a bit of a gray area because it's technically a product, but you can't touch it.
Is it cryptocurrency? Is there any downside of living in Malaysia?
Well, trying to think of one off the top of my head. Oh, yes.
I personally think that it's very important for kids to go to school. You will be partnered with
Like someone
lazy
whom you
kids.
hate?
Yes.
Know-it-all?
Yes. Otherwise, you would never meet these people at home. I think it's like mini society.
Yeah.
It teaches you how to survive in real society.
So, like, my impression of Gen Alpha is, oh, put the cat down! This is for my skibbity.
Ayu Petri dan Matt. Kita ngobrol sebentar dengan Matt, tanya-tanya tentang pendapatnya. Gimana sih rasanya sekolah di Malaysia? Jadi kita langsung saja karena kayaknya ini nanti akan jadi panjang banget. Alright, so what language should we use?
I'd prefer speaking English, not only because it's kind of the first language I ever learned, but also because, like, some of the jargon here I might not be able to translate into Indonesian.
For the sake of fluidity, we'll just use English. And also, I think this topic now will be useful for other people from different countries too, not just for Indonesia. So, untuk teman-teman yang minta Matt ngomongnya dalam bahasa Indonesia saja, mohon maaf ya. Kali ini kita ngobrol dalam bahasa Inggris lagi. Okay, maybe for new visitors, can you please introduce yourself first before we start?
Okay, so for those who don't know me, I'm a 16-year-old...
16?
Yes.
So sudden! Happy birthday!
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a 16-year-old multiracial nerd kid dork thing. I'm half Hungarian, half Indonesian, thereby multiracial, and I've basically lived abroad my entire life. So I went to kindergarten in Singapore, then I went to elementary school in Hungary, middle school also in Hungary, and then towards the end of 8th grade I moved to Malaysia, and that's where I stand now.
Something that is interesting to share, were you always in the international school system?
In the beginning, no, but it was only after we moved to Hungary that we decided to start sending me to international schools.
So in Singapore, you had a taste of public school?
Yeah.
In Singapore, okay. Maybe you can share from your earlier life, how was your experience with the public school system in Singapore?
Well, I'd say...
Was it very long, actually?
No, it was under a year, only a few months there, but from a combined perspective, both my experience and what I've heard, public schools tend to be a hit or miss thing. So, of course, there are good public schools out there.
Of course. Maybe I can explain more because you were too young to remember. Yeah, so basically, we all know that Singapore education system is one of the best in the world, right?
Yeah, what I said though doesn't exactly, it's not specific to Singapore. I think it's just a problem that public schools in general have. Like a trend that I've noticed. Like, the US is a pretty well-known country and even it has that problem.
It's true. Also, what you were saying,
So-
but how about your own experience in Singapore? That was the question.
Well, there were good and bad aspects.
There were good and there
Yeah.
were good and bad. You can say more about the good ones?
Well, there were more students, so there were more people you could talk to, I guess.
Yeah.
Because public
Yeah.
schools
Oh, yeah.
tend to be
True.
pretty affordable,
True.
so
There were more students.
yeah,
yes.
it's like a curve, and because the cost of a public school is lower, then there are more students that are like enticed to go there.
Bigger ratio between
Yes.
teacher and student.
Well, that's a bit of a double-edged sword because it means that students get a lot of people to talk to, but it also means that teachers have a lot of people to talk to. And if you're, I can imagine I'd break down if I were watching over like 50 students at once.
But it wasn't 50, it was like 30 maximum in a class. So yeah. I would say as a system, Singapore education system is good in the world. I mean, if you compare to other countries, for example, Indonesia, really, statistically, Singapore is better. That's why many people want to study in Singapore, right? Yes, but because you came from private school, you went to private school in kindergarten. It was Montessori, small, tiny school, and you had all the freedom in the world. You know, as long as you finish your work in kindergarten, you could do whatever you want. And then suddenly, one day, you were sent to a public school. We have to admit that public school system in Singapore is quite strict.
Well, not just in Singapore, I'd say any country.
Any country.
General.
I'm not sure about Malaysia because we have no experience with public school here. But yeah, in Singapore, it's, if you compare to European public school, of course, it's much stricter. And I think that you got shocked a little bit there. So from very free kindergarten and then you went to elementary school, it was quite difficult to adjust. Yeah, I think that's all the problem.
Yeah,
he wasn't ready for
I was just
that.
maladjusted.
He was not ready. So yeah, and then back then 2014 was it 2015 international schools in Singapore were super expensive. That's why if you couldn't fit in public school system, you had to move somewhere. So we chose to move back to Hungary. Why not? Because that's your home country.
And then after that, a bunch of, I don't remember the details, but a bunch of political happenings took place in Hungary, and then because of that, the living costs started to rise, so we had to move back to Malaysia because it seemed a bit more, well, no, move back to Southeast Asia, but move to Malaysia.
Yeah, we chose to.
Because it's more stable, like economically.
Plus, actually, so what I wanted to say is that we didn't hate Singapore. Definitely, actually, we loved it there.
Yeah, I'd say like in general, as a country, Singapore is like beautiful. Like,
beautiful.
Every single second I have ever spent in Southeast Asia is the reason why I call it my home.
Yeah, so we did like it there. That's the reason why we moved here, actually, because you wanted to go to Singapore again.
I wanted to go to Asia again, like,
for university. Yeah.
So yeah, living this close to Singapore is a good thing.
Yeah, so Malaysia and Singapore, they are not very different. They are right next to each other. I feel like very similar. Very similar. That's why we moved here. You can get used to here. If you want, you can visit Singapore sometimes to get used to things there, or check the university that you want to go to, this kind of things. That's why we moved here. Yeah, and in the process we found out that actually Malaysia is also very good place to live in.
Yeah, I'd say that region, like Malaysia and Singapore, just
Indonesia is not?
Indonesia is too.
But you haven't lived there.
I've never lived there, so I can't say for sure.
Yeah, one day. How long have you been in Malaysia?
I moved here in October of 2022, so that technically counts as 2 years.
2 years.
But those 2 years felt like 8 simply because of how many things have happened here. Like, it's really eventful.
It's been hectic in a good way. Right? Yeah. We're never bored. There's always something to do.
Yeah, there's always something happening.
Yeah. How do you feel now about studying here in Malaysia?
I'm just kind of glad to be in Southeast Asia again because, I mean, again, like I said earlier, it's kind of like my home.
That's it.
Well, in Malaysia, is it like overall?
Oh, no. I mean the school itself.
Oh.
How do you feel about studying here in this school in Malaysia?
I greatly appreciate that it focuses on like bringing the students together, because in the past I didn't really have that feeling. Like I was a bit of an outcast.
Oh, really? Why?
I don't know, but looking back, I think it was just because of how obnoxious of a bugger I was.
What do you mean?
Well, young children, you know how they are.
The way I see it, actually, you just played with the wrong kids.
Yeah, that too.
I think, yeah, there were a bunch of kids who had too mature interest, let's say so, and then you didn't like similar things like them,
Well,
so they
it's-
forced you
yeah.
to join them, and you didn't want to. So yeah, that happened. But anyway, it's okay. Now you are in a good place here.
Yeah.
And your friends are good. Okay, I'm happy about it. You are not exposed to public school system so much, but public school in general, I think you get the idea. What are the differences between international school and public school system? Or not just the system, yeah.
Yeah,
The whole
well,
package.
as an outsider, the most apparent difference will be that public schools tend to be free or really cheap, whereas international schools tend to be much more costly.
That's very obvious, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but from what I know, also that also translates to like the income of teachers,
Yeah, of course,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
which then translates to like quality of services,
Services.
because, well, not just income of teachers, but income of everyone working within the school. So
Oh.
yeah, from what I know, this is a bit of a hunch, but I believe that the reason international schools tend to be praised so often is because of the teachers. Well, the teachers tend to be paid pretty well, especially compared to public schools.
Oh, okay. Maybe I will talk about this one. My experience from Indonesia, coming from Indonesia. I'm not talking about other people's public education system, but in Indonesia now it's quite a big problem that our education system is not doing very well, and one of the reasons why is because the teachers get paid very little. So if you get paid very little, you are worried about how to get food, how to fix your house, how to do these kind of things instead of teaching, instead of doing your work better, right?
Yeah.
So what you said does make sense. Yeah. I think
Yeah.
in Hungary was the same. That they said sometimes teachers would strike because they didn't get pay rise for a long time. Yeah, I think it's common problem. I'm not sure if that's the problem in Singapore though, because
I'm not sure if that.
yeah, I think-
I've only heard of that happening in the U.S.
Oh, US too,
because
yeah.
again,
So-
I'd say my feeds on social media are very Americanized.
Of course, yeah. For Singapore, I don't think it's true. I think, did you know that Singaporean citizens are not allowed to go to international schools? They are not allowed. That way, the government makes sure that the public schools are on par with the international school. So even the richest people will still have to go to public school because they are as good as international school. So why not? And it's cheaper. So the only way I heard from back then when we were still in Singapore, the only way you can attend international school if you're a Singaporean citizen is because maybe you have difficulty to study in public school. You know what it means? Like they are special needs children.
Yeah.
Like maybe they need extra attention from teachers. If they go to public school with 30 other kids in the classroom, they wouldn't function.
Yeah.
So they need smaller classroom. Then they will get diagnosed and they can go to international school, something like that. Yeah, but what you said made sense. Yes.
There's also one last
What?
difference I want to mention. It's the language that the lessons are taught in. So in Malaysia, if you go to like a public school, then all of the classes will be in Bahasa Melayu.
I guess, yeah, that makes sense.
If you go to a public school in France, all of the classes will be in French.
Yeah, of
If you go to a public school in
Indonesia?
yeah, if you go to a public school in Indonesia, the classes will be in Bahasa Indonesia.
Of course.
If you go to a public school in Russia, all of the classes are taught in Russian. But meanwhile, international schools don't really have that. So the general consensus is that, yeah, it's best for international schools if lessons are taught in English. Because that's kind of like what's a good way to describe it? It's kind of like the
Lingua franca. Oh,
yeah, it's like the bridge for language barriers. Like, for anyone who plans to live abroad, learn English, please, if you haven't already. It's really useful. Trust me. And if I can do it, you can too.
Yeah, that's right. It's just to make it easier, I guess, because for diplomats, for expatriates, they keep moving country every 4 years or something. So it just makes sense that all schools that they attend to will be in English.
Yeah, although the software industry has recently been trying to figure out solutions to demolish language barriers without requiring anyone to learn a different language. Like there are, for example, real-time translation tools out there. So
how does it work?
Google Translate, for example. So there's like a conversation mode. So you activate the microphone and speak in your native language. Then you pass the phone to whomever you are speaking to. And I think they hear like what you said in their native language. Then they reply in their native language, and you hear it back in yours.
In your language. But how do you
that's not really real time.
Yeah, and how do you apply it in a classroom, right?
Yeah, that's still more of a one-on-one thing.
Yes.
So yeah, but I feel like the geniuses out there are gonna find a solution to that. Just you wait. Whether it be with AI or with some other like revolution, I don't know what's happening these days. All I hear about is AI, and I'm supposed to be like the technical whiz. Yet I don't know what's happening anymore. Like the tech industry I feel like they're kind of going insane these days.
Can you tell us more about international school system then? Like we don't know much about the public school system in Malaysia because you've never studied there, so we can't say much. But about the international school systems, there are quite a few, right? What are they?
The only two international like curricula that I've heard of.
Because plural.
Latin. Yeah. So IB, I don't really know much about like the in-depth differences, but I do know IB leans towards American like culture.
Oh, not really. IB was founded in Switzerland.
Yeah, but I don't know. A lot of people say that it's
because
it's very popular
in the US.
Possible. Yeah,
possible.
Well, yeah, I heard that the IGCSE is more of a British curriculum.
It is British,
So, for example, like an IB student, they might spell the word favorite, or just rather favor, as FAVOR. Whereas IGCSE students might, I'm not sure, I've never been to an IGCSE school, but they might typically be taught to spell favor as FAVOUR.
And they will say "water" like that.
No, that's only in memes. the British do not do like T glottalization.
British?
Yeah, in fact, they always pronounce the letter T. They don't do, like, for example, Americans, they say the T's are a D, so letter. Whereas British people would usually say letter.
Letter.
So the,
Water.
yeah, T is always pronounced as is.
So it's not water. British.
No, that's only in memes, again. British. Water.
British.
Bottle of water.
So you are an IB student? Or, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you like it then?
Well, yeah, I'd
You
say, yeah, now that I've gained a bit more awareness on like, yeah, I tend to study like psychology and stuff like in my spare time occasionally, but now that I'm a bit more aware about these kinds of topics, I'd say the IB is a pretty solid system. I don't know about IGCSE because again,
We've never been there, yeah. What's different from IB? What is unique?
Here's an example, especially for like a very purist IB school.
Is it purist IB
I'd
school?
say my school is pretty purist because it's like 100% IB. There's like a main progression for IB. First, you start off at PYP, Primary Years Program.
Okay, that's for elementary school, I guess?
Yeah, it starts in first grade, I believe, and ends when you graduate from 5th grade. Yeah. And after that, there's the MYP. Yeah, it's middle years program, and it starts not exactly.
Not
middle
exactly.
school, because it starts at grade 6, and it ends when you graduate from what grade?
10.
Yes. Because typically middle school ends after grade 8, but yeah, MYP will still continue until you've reached 10th grade.
Yeah.
So you can be in high school, but still going through the MYP program in grades 9 and 10.
Then after you finish, you graduate from MYP? What do
To
you
the
do?
diploma program, and yeah.
IBDP.
Yeah, essentially the DP is the most hectic part of the IB. It's like the culmination. I've yet to go through it, but it's very different from the PYP and MYP. This is a really interesting idea, but yeah, they have what's called like the extended essay. It's like the culmination of everything you've done in school. So you start it somewhere during 11th grade, and the due date is somewhere during 12th grade.
So is it like final exam? Or
Basically.
is it like thesis in university?
Thesis.
It's like thesis, so you need to write a book or something.
Yeah.
So it's thesis.
And for example, PYP has PYPX, I think that's what it's called, where students show off like a physical product they've made.
Physical product?
Yeah, to parents, friends, and siblings. And the MYP has, I'm doing it right now, the so-called personal project.
So it's like practicing before you have to do that.
Yeah, it's more like an effort. So there are two different things you can make in the personal project. There's either the physical product, so something like PYPX, like maybe a model. You can also create an outcome, which is less of a tangible thing. It's less of a thing and more of an event.
Like?
So one of the examples my school gave for an outcome was a campaign. Like social campaign.
Yes.
Where the outcome is that you raise awareness to a good cause.
Oh, yeah. So you can do that, or you create something, and then what are you doing?
Mine is in a bit of a gray area because it's technically a product, but you can't touch it.
Is it cryptocurrency?
I think that's a fad. I'm doing an app, basically.
An app.
Yeah, so I don't know how to describe this in a way that is agnostic for operating systems, different like Windows, Mac OS, Linux. But think of it like a file manager. Like,
Windows.
For Windows, that's File Explorer. For Mac OS, that's Finder. For Linux, that's God knows what. Like Nautilus. Well, they do, but there are a lot of different file managers.
It's that thing to...
To move files, move, copy, delete, just do anything with your hard drive. It's that, but it's like a split screen design so that it's easier to do things quickly. So you have 2 different folders open per window.
Yeah, well, I didn't have this kind of thing at my school. Yeah, so probably that's the difference. One of them at least. Battery, we need to hurry then.
Oh no, I want to take my time.
Can you recall any impactful event that happened to you in the school?
I'd say with my current school, that impactful event would just simply be finding my people. Because, it took me a few weeks, but eventually I was accepted into like the community, and since then I found a pretty welcoming friend group. Yeah.
I mean, it's always difficult to be a new kid on the block.
Yeah, I was also pretty happy to find that they had a computer science class.
Well, I think that answered the next question. What is your favorite subject?
Did you not hear what I just said? And I don't know. What I like about computer science is that there's no one way to approach a problem you face in computer science. So there's myriad solutions for one problem, but some are better than others. So you have to kind of, it's a lot to do about evaluating. And not to mention, a lot of people say you need a lot of math skills, but I mean, last year I kind of flunked my math classes, and I mean, I'm still doing pretty well with computer science. That's not changing anything.
Are your grades good, actually?
Medium, I'd say. They tend to drop around the beginning of the year.
Because of summer break.
Yeah, but by the time I lock in, there's like a sharp uptick, and it kind of, that uptick reaches its peak at the end of the second semester. So I'm starting to feel that uptick right now, actually, because at the beginning of the year, my GPA was pretty horrendous. It was 3.09, which is very bad for...
Compared to last semester,
last semester was 3.75.
Yeah.
But now, I
It's
think
picking
I'm
up.
on the upswing again. Now my GPA is 3.32, and I think I'm on track to make it to around 3.5 by the end of this semester.
Not so bad.
I'm not sure though. Maybe I might be faced with a pop quiz and then it'll all come crashing down. Who knows? Because
Study. How about outside school? Do you like Malaysia in general?
I'd say I like Malaysia and Singapore in general. Like Southeast Asia, actually.
So Indonesia too? Indonesia is Southeast Asia.
Yeah. I mean, I've never lived there,
Yeah.
but the time I've spent in Indonesia has been phenomenal. But yeah, I digress. Malaysia and Singapore, I love them so much. Like, so...
What do you like in Malaysia?
It's only a few minutes away to get to the nearest shopping mall.
And you like it?
And I'm just grateful for the fact that I can travel to shopping malls by foot. Not to mention, although Malay is like the preferred language here, you can get by pretty well with English knowledge, especially in KL, because here I haven't seen any like street signs or anything that don't have an English translation. So it's very welcoming to foreigners.
Well, there are street signs like kendaraan dilarang berhenti, you know, that kind of thing.
True.
Kawasan sekolah, you know, near
Yeah.
your school, that kind of thing.
But like with basic Malay knowledge,
You can get by. Yeah, and you understand those very basic.
And even
Yeah.
then, if all like in shopping malls, again, like there's no sign in a shopping mall that like if it's written in Malay, there's always an English version written underneath. So yeah, perfect for like it's
Foreigners.
perfect. Yeah.
So I would say that's very good to attract foreigners, to attract tourists, to attract foreign talent. So I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes people like us, especially me, okay, I'm getting old. It's tough for me to learn new languages.
Yeah.
So when I move somewhere, I want to move to a place where I can just use English. And here, I'm so blessed. I can use Malay well with my Indonesian, which is very similar.
Yeah,
or I can use
but-
English.
Like if you speak Indonesian here, the locals can tell. Like for example, some of the small nuances with Malay pronunciation. Like for example, the schwa sound, like the in place of a. Indonesian doesn't really have that, so that's like an easy way for the locals to tell if someone is Indonesian.
That's true.
But even with Indonesian, you can get by.
Yes, and they understand me perfectly, and they don't tease me because of my
Yeah.
accent. So I was okay. I'm very grateful. You speak Malay a little bit?
Saya boleh cakap bahasa Melayu sikit.
Saya.
This is exactly what I'm talking about. The schwa sound. That schwa sound. It's so unusual to me.
But
Please leave that blooper in because it shows just how incorrigible I am.
but even with this accent, they will understand.
Yeah,
so it's
that's the
okay.
best part because
Yeah.
Malay and Indonesian are so similar. They'd be able to understand each
Yeah,
other.
yeah.
And vice versa.
I have some difficulty with slang, maybe because
yeah,
I'm not
me too,
very
me
cool
too.
person. But yeah, usually when I ask them, they will explain.
Even in English, I
Even
have
in
difficulty
English,
with
yeah.
slang because, I mean, skibbity, Ohio, gyat, kaisenat, like those words hurt my brain. So, like, my impression of Gen Alpha is, oh, put the gyat down! This is for my skibbity.
I don't understand. Okay. Battery. Is there any downside of living in Malaysia?
Well, trying to think of one off the top of my head. Oh, yes, traffic.
Oh, traffic.
Like,
Coming from Hungary, where there is nobody
Yeah.
on the road.
if you toggle the stopwatch every time a car passed by, it would be like a few minutes apart. It's especially bad during storms, though. Like, never go out during a storm, not only because of the lightning and the thunder and
Yeah.
and all that scariness, but
We
also,
don't have that in Hungary too.
Yeah, but-
Monsoon rain.
Yeah, but also because all of the cars will be crowding up and like crossing the street will be like, can you even do it? So yeah, time for me to turn the tables. If you could give advice for parents who want to put their kids into a school, which school would you suggest and why?
Which school? Huh? There are lots of schools. Where in
Like public?
Malaysia?
Yeah, like public or international.
Oh, okay. It will take some time. Okay, so I think it depends on several factors. First of all, of course, financial situation. Because
Yeah.
like you said before, international school can be expensive. But in Malaysia, actually, there are a lot of options. First, local school, public school, but you know, the language will be Bahasa Melayu and curriculum will be different from your home country. Here, I'm not sure, but I think it's free for Malaysian citizens. I'm not sure about foreigners. So second, there is also private school. So they are run by private institution, but they will still teach public curriculum, but they will be cheaper than international school. So you can think about it. Some of them also teach in English. So that's also an option. The third one, the most expensive, of course, international school. But in Malaysia, there are tons of them. and
That's what happens when you have a lot of foreigners, I
because
guess.
yeah, in Malaysia there are lots of foreigners, right? And I heard from my Malaysian friend, actually they have grades. These international schools have grades, grade A, B, C, D, based on how expensive their tuitions are.
For me, it's a scale. Wait, what?
Yeah.
Grade? I thought the grades they give students.
No. It's based on the tuition. So like
Oh.
grade D, international schools are of course the most affordable, like 10,000 to 20,000 ringgits per year.
That's a lot.
I mean, if you compare to public school, probably it's still more expensive. And then grade C, this is just the number that I heard from my friends. So maybe our viewers can do more research. Grade C tuition is like 20,000 to 30,000 ringgits. And then grade B is 30,000 to 50,000. Grade A is the most expensive, 50,000 and above per year. So you can choose based on your financial situation. But if it's still too expensive for you, you can choose homeschooling. In Malaysia, it's legal, so you can teach your own kid based on the curriculum that you want. Like
Although, yeah, you told me like there's a bit of a disadvantage with that because like the main purpose of school is not just the knowledge, but also like teaching students how to work together, like speak to each other.
That's what I think. You agree?
Yes, I completely agree with you now. Yeah.
So yeah, that's why I personally think that it's very important for kids to go to school. Homeschool, it will be very easy because there's no competition. You will sit with your mom, and your mom will just listen to you, give you all the attention, no conflict, right? But school will teach you. You will be partnered with
Like someone
lazy
who you
kids.
hate,
Yes.
know-it-all,
Yes.
or I don't know, someone who just like
Just
people-
annoying, just rude. They don't want to work, for example. Well, otherwise you would never meet these people at home, right? You only meet them at school. So how do you
Not to
survive?
not to mention like the communication.
Yes.
Skills.
Yes. If you don't speak English well at home, you don't have friends to practice because your native language is not English. And you only talk to your mom who speaks only Indonesian, for example.
Yeah.
But you go to school and you speak to your teacher, to your friends, you will improve a lot. So I think school is very important in, I think it's like mini society.
Yeah.
It teaches you how to survive in real society. Yeah, so it depends on all those things that I explained. Then you can choose which school you want.
Yeah, okay, let's hurry up, battery.
All right.
Okay, yeah, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Please watch our other videos, I beg. And yeah, I'll see you in a future video, maybe sometime in the future. Bye.
Bye.